this little chunk, that's got kind of a unique color to it, Aaron, don't you think?
Rust?
I mean, it's the same thing as that, right?
Absolutely the same.
Yeah, but absolutely not. I mean,
It's not.
this is the start of a Neomagnet. So it starts as a bar stock as well, and then it gets shaved into these little coins, for lack of a better term. And you notice it's got kind of an odd color to it. And once again, if you watch the show we did on magnets, Neo can corrode. In fact, this is oxidizing. You can see it's changing in color. So what will happen after we do that, it'll go through another process where the edges are rounded off. It gets a coating on that to keep it from corroding, and then it gets magnetized. So that's basically a Neomagnet.
So that's it.
So that's all there is to it, those 3 steps, but that's not all there is to the motor, because we still got to do the back plate and all that for the tweeter too. Once again, start with a pretty thick steel. So it takes a pretty good punch to do this, and we'll punch out, once again, more coins. It's almost like a $50.
It is.
Like between a $50 and a quarter, somewhere in there. So from there, it's going to get stamped into this shape, which looks kind of like a bottle cap.
The next 3 look almost identical to
Yeah,
me.
they're pretty close, but that'd be another step from that disc. And then we're going to go, in fact, I got to figure out which one is which here. I think someone was playing with. There's the next step, which if you notice, it's a little bit shorter. It gets trimmed down.
It is.
Jump face out on those so we can,
Do it that way?
yeah, just kind of hold them.
All right. So if you notice a little bit different change in the shape, this one's a little shorter, and once again, it's got some softer edges on it. And then from there, it gets refined once again. You know, it's much shinier all the way across, so it's finished. It's got rounded edges, not the hard sheared edges. So a whole nother process in just that, and eventually it becomes that.
Ta-da!
So if you ever look at the back of the tweeter, this is what's going to label the tweeter with the impedance and maybe the model number, and this Neomagnet would actually sit inside there. So that is how you make the motor structure, part of the motor structure, the magnet structure for a Neo tweeter.
Oh, can you show us how the voice coil slides
Yep,
in
and that's exactly where I was going to go next. So to make the voice coil for the tweeter, we already showed you the wire. Here's the Kapton former, and I think it got sat on. It's so thin and so fragile. It's got to be ultra light, but still rigid. And then you'll see that the little voice coil windings are actually wrapped around that. And there's no paper reinforcement former. There just isn't room in this speaker. So that is the voice coil, and it actually rides in there.
Steven.
See, we don't get a red light on that camera. He just takes stuff, and we assume that he's using something.
Look at
that. Yeah, that's supposed to be like a paper or a ring, a disc. So it's been smushed.
It's like chewing gum.
Yep. So from there, you got to have the other components to the speaker. And so we start off with the material for the tweeter, which is a silk fabric, which you can see here, or maybe can or can't. And once again, it's made in big sheets, and that goes through a heat press to form a soft dome. So why do we call it a soft dome? Because it's not ultra soft, but it can't be too soft. It's got to be very lightweight, but it's not rigid. And the whole reason why we use this type of material in a tweeter, it's got an extremely high internal loss. So like this desk, if I tap on it, you don't hear a lot of ringing. So that's got high internal loss. But if I hit a bell and it keeps resonating, that's got low internal loss. So by using a material like this and that shape, it actually really, multiplies the internal loss. So the tweeter doesn't actually add its own sound to the sound you're trying to listen to. And then, of course, we go to things like the little trim ring around the tweeter, the little waveguide, and the shape of this. I mean, every bit of these speakers is so highly engineered. It's really interesting, going and talking to Alan. You can't ask him a simple question because he will give you the actual answer, which sometimes is pages long. And he's just such a wealth of information. It's just amazing what that guy knows about building speakers. But the actual diameter of this ring, the angle of the radius here makes a difference. The height, we will adjust. In fact, I remember talking about when we were doing the development of the QSC speakers, they were actually changing the height of this 1/4 of a millimeter at a time, and having a tool made for each one of those to see how it changed the sound to ensure we got the right sound. So from there, we got to go into a process that shears the little molding tabs off and gives it its nice little copper color around the outside. So that's just, all the processes that it takes to make even what we call the waveguide for the tweeter.